You are currently the only person in this conference.
Emiliana, your microphone is off. So it's good. Yeah.
No, we can hear you.
Let's see. I want to stop my sharing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, okay, I'm gonna, well, thank you for the introduction. I was hoping to open my presentation at the same time, but then it kind of, the screen went in the back. So I am going to now share you, I prepared a presentation, I'm gonna share the screen and hopefully this will work. Nice.
It works.
Oh, good. Good. Okay. Good. Well, thank you for, the invitation. I was really excited to share with you about the work that I've been doing and the research that I've been doing in my community. And this project that I'm going to present to you is, I started it a long time ago, actually, even before I did my thesis, because this was a project that I really passionate me. And so I thought, well, when I'm done with my thesis, so I can, focus on this project. So one of the, the things that I find really fascinating about this is that there are a lot of things that we can learn about, these things. And so I want to, outline the presentation where I can give you like it's sort of the general idea, like what the project is about, and also tell you a little bit about the language, and also tell you about the how this is connected, to the municipality, and then I will tell you like the methodology that I use to do this project. So first, let's talk about why landscape, or like why we should study, like why linguists or why anthropologists or ethnographers or geographers should pay attention to the study of landscape. For me, there was one thing that I realized, that landscape, it really can teach us about the deep connection that people have with their territory or the places that they go to, and especially like the knowledge that people have about these places. And like this area where I do my research, they have been living there for many centuries, and so they know a lot about the place, and they have like trails that connected them to the farmland, or trails that go to ceremonial places, or trails that will connect them with other villagers. So if we focus on what landscape can offer us, we can really learn about this about the community, about the ethnography of this area. So this is something that I realized when I was doing my thesis, that I was working on the language, and for me, I had to first focus on the language and then be able to do the ethnography. So I felt that I had to really understand how the tone system worked, how, the, phonology and phonetics and morphology, but I was still like really fascinated by the landscape and the information that people were giving me about landscape. So to give you an example about what I'm talking about is so I am a native speaker of this language, and I left the community when I was really young, and my family had to migrate to the city, and so we had to go there to look for ways to have access to education. So when I think about what happens when you move from one place and then you go to a different place, so for me, like I kind of lost a lot of the knowledge that I thought that I would acquire if I stay in the village, because then now moving into the city, I was not going to go to the farmlands. I was not going to go another village, hiking. So I was not going to have that, right? So I didn't have that. So, but then what happens when new generations are also not having access to those things, even when they're living in the community? And a lot of young people are not having access to this is because of the education system. So they have to go to school, and the school, goes from like 8 in the morning into 2 p.m. So then there is like many hours they're like in school with the learning other things, but not about the knowledge of the grandparents. So then I thought, well, okay, how do not having been raised in the community, I realized that when I was doing my transcription, in maybe many of you, or I don't know how many of you do language documentation, but what I realized that in my transcriptions, I had a lot of specialized vocabulary that I didn't hear and that didn't know what they were. So in particular, I was hearing like toponyms. I was hearing like plant names. I was hearing like animal names. I was hearing like smells and colors that are not like your common, daily vocabulary. So what I realized that how am I going to note that in a transcription? And I'm sure linguists understand what I'm talking about. Like, so if you have a name of a toponym, how do you there is no really a translation, right, for the place. It's not like you can say, well, we said this in Chatino and then we said this in Spanish. No, it was just a name of a place and there is no translation. So, but the physical, thing exists. So I ran, into a lot of that situations. So I thought, well, I think that after we know how the language works, in order for for us to write the language, then I'm going to understand what is in that area that I don't understand. So that's one of the reasons that I started to focus on landscape, because I feel that really offers you a very different perspective, and especially even that I'm from the community, there is a really deep connection that people have with the territory, and that is something that I feel that it's really hard to understand it if you don't go to these physical places and understand what it means to be from that place. So it has to me. When we're studying or when we're documenting languages, studying indigenous languages, to me, a landscape offers a lot of material for us. So then I'm gonna, go with tonal languages. And so Chatino, and in Mexico, we have a lot of languages that have tones, just, a lot of the Asian languages, Chinese, Mandarin, or Vietnamese, or some other languages. But so according to some of the studies that linguists have done, is that there are about 60% of the languages in the world have tones. So the ones that don't have tone are less. So, but we somehow in in sort of the area, the description like that linguists do in a lot of the languages that they have tones, they usually, or before, when I was doing my work on tones, I realized that linguists were more interested on morphology or the grammar, the syntax, but they were not, really focusing on the tones. And this is in particular, the case of Mexican indigenous languages. So we have here in Mexico, so according to the Mexican government, so there are 18 language families, and within that, so there are like 220 varieties of those languages. But the majority, we have this really large group of languages that they their tone that have tones. And so one of those languages is so I can name some of these languages. So we have Musgo, Chatino, Chichimeco, Chinanteco, Chocholteco, Cuicateco, Izcateco, Matlacinca, Mazahua, Mazateco, Mixteco, Tomí, Pame, Popoloca, Tlahuica, Tlapaneco, Triqui, Zapoteco. So all of those languages are like, they have tones, and but they're each of those languages are completely different, right? And so more like recently we see like the interest of people like focusing on tones, because before we cite a lot of grammars, but the part of the analysis of the tones was sort of left out. And so now we I see that some of the linguistic programs are like starting to be more interested on the tones. And in my case, also just like the landscape, I felt that I couldn't move forward if I didn't understand the tone system of this language that I speak. And so then I spent a lot of years trying to figure out the tone system. And so that's why I decided to not focus on the landscape for my dissertation project. But I figured out the tone system, and I'm going to share with you how the tone systems, how the tone system is in Quiahije. But now, I gave you a list of names of languages, right? And they're being counted as one language. So that is something that we have been asked the Mexican government to actually change that, because we don't think that they're like one language in each of these languages. Actually, we realized that Chatino, it has 3 languages, and it is like, it kind of like saying like, well, French, Spanish, and Portuguese, those are like dialects, right? We don't say that. We say that those are languages. And it's the same thing what happens with Chatino languages. We have, in this map, we have the green area, the dark green area. This is, we call it Sensontepec Chatino. And this is a disyllabic language. And this one is closer to more of the Proto-Chatino, and then we move a little bit lower, and then here we have Tataltepec Chatino, and that is only spoken in one community, and so then we have this whole area that we call it Eastern Chatino. And so what is really interesting about these 3 languages is that I'm just going to give you very, very like a sort of, general idea about how they work. So if you live in the dark green area in Sensontepec area, you can actually travel to different communities and be able to communicate with people in all those communities. And with Tataltepec is only spoken in one community, and there just really few people speak this language, so children are not acquiring this language. So let's say that the language that is really in in a difficult situation will be Tataltepec, and so we don't know, like, if in 50 years, if there will still be speakers of this language. So then here, but then you sort of, if you are from Tataltepec and you go to a community of Sanzontepec, you might be able to communicate a little bit, but it will be difficult. Now, if you see the Eastern Chatino, it's really different. And what also is really interesting about this area is that it's different from Sanzontepec and it's different from Tataltepec. And most of these languages, and the language in here and the varieties of these languages in here are monosyllabic. And each of them have their own variety. So if you are from one community, you might be able to, communicate with the next community a little bit. But one thing that they have different are the tones, because the segments of the words are similar, but the tones are different. So then we have 15 varieties in Eastern Chatino. And so I only speak one of the varieties of Eastern Chatino, which is San Juan Quiahije. And because I study Chatino, and so it makes it a little bit easier for me to be able, to communicate with some of the people in different communities. But that's because, I travel a lot to these communities. And I think it also depends on how much contact people have with each other. Like some communities have more contact because of some, exchange, like some commercial business exchange. But each community has, its own variety. And now I'm gonna, just focus into the San Juan Quiahije, where I come from. So this is San Juan Quiahije, and it's a municipality. Municipality means that, it's the, you have like at one place that it has sort of the economic and the political sort of power. And then in this photo, this is San Juan, which is the municipality. And then here is Cieneguilla. This is where I was born. And so this is not a municipality. This is, Cieneguilla depends economically from San Juan Quiahije. But as you see here, all the mountains, right? It's a really beautiful place. It has a lot of mountains, and the territory is large. And so what I've done is that I walk by foot to all of these different areas. And so I would explain to you what I do, but that's, a lot of the hikes that I have to do, is hike mountains. So this is a municipality. So now, so what is it? What is this municipality? So I purposely put a picture of Chinese restaurant in this place. So when I was a child, I don't remember seeing a restaurant, or like people didn't sell food when I was growing up in there. But now there is a lot of people migrate to the U.S. and one of the work that they do, or most of the Chatinos from Quiahije, they work in Chinese restaurants in the U.S. And some of them, when they come back, so they open their own restaurants in the community. So here in this municipality, most people speak Chatino, and you'll still hear children playing in Chatino. You will still, like, the meetings, like the local meetings that are in Chatino, they, like people like see each other to speak Chatino. But more and more, we start to see young people using Spanish with their children. And we also, because of the migration too, a lot of young children, they're born in the U.S., but they are sent back to the community to be raised by the grandparents. So then the parents often tell their grandparents to not speak Chatino to the children, because they would be, they will confuse the children, right? So we have a lot of children that are not acquiring Chatino, but the majority of them, they still learn Chatino. And people here, they go to the U.S. Or they farm they're subsistent farmers, and so like I said, they go to the U.S. or they also migrate to the cities around in Oaxaca or in Mexico City. And in terms of like at the schools, the schools here, even though we have the program that is for the indigenous education, but the language that local teachers use is Spanish. So they don't, most of the teachers, they are not from the community, and this is purposely done because that way they're forced to only use Spanish. So the teachers, what they do is that if you're from one community, they say no, you don't go there because then you might not work in there. So you might be you want to be a teacher, so you need to go to a different community. So we see a lot of teachers who they speak a different indigenous language, but they're working in this municipality. So it's been a lot of struggle to make the Mexican government understand that we need teachers, local teachers, to work in our local schools. Like I showed you in the map, we have 15 varieties, right, of the Eastern Chatino. So ideally will be that you will have a teacher from that community working in that community, because then it will be able to use the language that is from the community. But so that's a difference. That's another presentation, but that is a scenario of the local schools. And there is one thing about this municipality. I mean, people are really proud to be Chatinos. People are really proud that they have a history. They're really proud about being Chatino, and not necessarily that is really linked to the language, right? So you're Chatino, culturally you're that, right? And even though if you don't speak the language, so they're proud when they speak the language, but also they're really open because of the migration. They want to learn Spanish, and also I would say that many people in this municipality are like fluent in English, and so which is very interesting as well. So that's about that municipality. But now the language. So this is a language that is known among the Oromanguean languages, of the language stock that has all the the tonal languages. So this language, Chatino of San Juan Quiahije, is one of the languages that has a lot of more tones than other Oromanguean languages. And so we have a lot of tones, and also we lost the penultimate syllable. And so when we think about Sensontepec is a disyllabic or trisyllabic language. And so over time we started losing that penultimate syllable, and so we end up with a lot of tones. And so it's monosyllabic, and then so with many tones. And now here I have a table to show you some of the syllable structure. So if you can see, right, so we have the consonant vowel, so we can have two consonants in vowel, and we have consonant to consonants, we have consonant, laryngeal, and so it is like, for example, this is for example in it got cold, so we have a nasal, we have a consonant, we have laryngeal, and we have a vowel. So I'm just gonna say to you this word, wa, and also the superscripts, and those are the tones. And so with the syllable structure, sometimes you have a lot of consonants, and so in terms of like for writing or for reading this language, a lot of the times people are like they're, literally in Spanish, or they, learn to read and write in Spanish. So then when you, when you try to teach them how, to write and read in Chatino, it's really difficult because they have to think completely differently, right? Because of the, the tones and also all the consonant clusters that, are together. And so the vowels are very simple. So we have 5 oral vowels, and we have 4 nasal vowels, and that's, something that, is very straightforward. We don't have word initials. And also, that's, I would say we only have 4 nasal vowels. We don't have the U nasal vowels. So that's not very complicated. But what it makes this language complicated is that, well, yes, the vowels are, like 5, oral vowels, but each vowel has a tone. So the tones are, what the vowels carry the tones, and that's what the complication kind of gets in there. So about the tones. So the tones, hopefully I'm, capable of explaining these tones. So we have 15 tone melodies. And one of these is a toneless word. And this is actually realized as a default low tone. And so when I say toneless, it means that it doesn't have its own tone. It will, change depending on the environment that is going to be, put in. So, but the sort of the level tone that of this tone is a low tone. So then we have 7 melodies that are linked only, and so it consists of a single tonium that links to its host. So I will explain to you what that means. And then we have 7 that are linked, plus they have a floating tone. And so this one, if it's found in a first word, it would affect the following word, the second word. And that happens only if they allowed, if the second word would allow a floating tone. So now, how does it work? So we have, right, this is our, melodies. So we have the toneless, which is a low tone. And this is, for example, 8, shku. That's a toneless, low tone. So then we have our linking, like we have our 7 linking only. And we have this one is I'm not going to say the English one, so you can just follow. I'm going to start with the beans in here. So this is da, sna, wa, tu, na, se, she. So those are our linking only tones. So then we have the ones that are linking also with, floating tones. And so, and what happens is that we're not going to hear the floating tone in isolation. We're only going to see the floating tone popping out in context. So so you can follow the gloss in here, and then I'm just going to read this. Squang, snang, wa, ke, ha, lo, lo. So those are, all of these have floating tones. So how does it work? So we have the toneless, which is, like I told you, is going to be in a low tone. So we have I have 2 words in here. I have tortilla, ja, and I have 8, ku. And then I'm going to put a word that has a floating tone. You can see how it changes. So in isolation, tortilla is ja, and 8 is ku. So then I threw tortilla. I ate an apple. ate a banana and flower ate. A lot of the sentences don't make sense. I just want to show you how the tones work. So here will be, remember now, you have to remember that the tone for tortilla and the tone for ate is low tone, is shku, ate, ha, right? So number one is squanja. Now the tortilla that used to be low, now it went to all the way high. Squanja. And then snajku, huayku, quejku, haiku, lo, ha, lo, ha. So now tortilla. So now all of this, right? You see that tortilla changes a super high, 8 super high, 8 super high. Now 8 it goes to high, and then here in 5 it goes to mid high, and then now in 6 tortilla goes to mid high. So that's what I'm talking about when I said that the toneless will take the floating tone of the previous word. So we have, like how do children learn how to do this? Who knows? Someone has to, study how to, children learn how to, have 15 tones and, be able to talk with these 15 tones. So in terms of like, in a sentence that kind of makes sense, right? So we have tortilla is ha, and it's gonna heat up, or she will heat up is song. Right. So we have these two words, and let's say that, someone is saying, well, you need to heat up the tortilla. So they will have to do this. So now tortilla is no longer low. Now it goes to super high. So, okay, with all of that, right, I thought, okay, I know how the tones work. I know how the, language, the phonology and the phonetics. And so I have that. So, and a lot of us, we do linguistics for many reasons. Some of us do it because we have passion for languages. Some of us, we do it because we're very interested in how, the culture, relationship that languages have with, with people, with, the way our societies work. And there are like all kinds of reasons of why we, like languages. And so for me, like I'm really fascinated about the, what are like the memories that people have when they go to a physical place? And I explained to you at the beginning of this talk is that I had people telling me a lot of stories, and the stories had a lot of place names. And so I thought, how do I understand the story when I don't even know what the location of the place is? So then I started like thinking, well, it would be really nice to take this story and go to the physical place that, the story that the story has. So that's how I started doing it. One, like I wanted to understand, like more about the story. So that's how I started doing it. And I realized that I will be sometimes like eliciting, like maybe adjectives or syntax to people, and people will be falling asleep, and I'll be like, huh. But then once I will, we will start hiking, people just started like telling stories, and they just, many like stories of them in, the physical space. So then I thought, why not, actually do this as a project and see what I can learn about it. So I started, working with the local authorities. Even though I am from this community, but I have to ask for permission to be able to do this project. And also the city, the meeting hall had to like also accept the project. So I can't just, start a project. So, but I started first, like doing my pilot project. And once I knew what to do, that's when I took, the project to the local authorities, and they were really interested on the project because they also feel that, young people need to learn more about, the stories of, trails and they felt that, it was an important project to support. And so what is it that I do when I do this? So I work with someone to video record the hike that we do. We do audio recording, but with the audio recording, I carry 3 audio recorders. I have one for myself, and that one with myself is to communicate with the person with the video, with the person who is taking the photos, and also for me to remember the physical location where I'm gonna, what I took, whatever information I took. And then the guide or the speaker who is going to hike with us is going to have her own, recorder. And then we use the head microphone. And so that way the person has, free hands. And then I have another recorder that is to record everything that is happening, because I'm very interested in hearing what everyone has to say, and also the external noise that is happening. It's really beautiful, because sometimes you will get the sounds of the foot, walking, or you hear the birds, or you will hear you sometimes run into people in the trail, and people read and talk. And so for me, I wanted to get everything of in that hike. And we have 2 cameras, and one camera is to take sort of the landscape photos, and also we have another camera that it takes a close picture, for example, for plants of insects. And also we do maps, and we do hand maps, and also we do the GPS, we do the points as well. And also I take notes as well. And as I'm doing this, right, I'm training people how to do it. So I work with local university and also with the high schools. So they go with us, and they also learn how to document this kind of knowledge. And then all of this material that has been recorded, we create pedagogical materials with it. And so then here I'm gonna take you to sort of give you a sense of what it is. So for example, here we start at 5 in the morning. And so here is Manuela Jimenez, that's me, and Rebecca. And so now we started walking, and I don't know if you can see, but Manuela has her, headphone, microphone, and the recorder is in her bag, and here on the side. And she's once in a while she checks that the machine is actually recording. So I also teach them, the light has to look like this. So we do that. So then we're gonna go to a trail that has a lot of ceremonial areas, and I want to be able to document these ceremonial places. And the first place that we go to, it's called Tentiu, and this is a place where people used to do rituals for newborn. And so you see a lot of plants around here. And so what people do is that they bury placentas in the area, and when they bury that, they plant different plants and put candles in the place, so they to wish good life and healthy life to the newborn child. So all of these plants that we see in this area, this is because of people planting them to for their newborn children. So, and also as we continue walking with this rock, it's Yashu, and Yashu is really a cool name. It means malicious rock, and so this is a ceremonial rock, and people pray to the rock. So no one will hurt them, or if someone gives you bad energy, or someone wants to maybe is gossiping about you or something, so you go to this rock and you pray to wish, to clean, that, bad energy from other people. So then we get to another place that is called the Kepisu. Kepisu, this is a rock that is used to pray for your turkeys. And so people come and then they pray, for their animals. And so you see here, they have, like people like light candles in here. And also it's like these are small rocks, but it's idea of like, oh, they're feeding their turkeys, because they feed them corn. So the idea is that, they will always the turkeys will always have food. So then there is another rock, which is an important rock, and this is a rock that they said that is a king rock, Loquerre. And apparently here, a long, long, long time ago, a king walked and it rested in this on these rocks. And then now there is like you can see the place, the mark that the king left when it lay down. And so people come and pray here as well. And so we have here a rock that it's a horse rock, Quiahije. And this is the rock, and people can pray to have horses and cows. So anyway, but now what is it with all of this, right? So what is really, as I'm like getting more into this, is that actually families take on place names. And so in Mexico, you have your last name, your name, your two last names. But in the community, what people do is that you have your last name, but it's taken by the area where you live, where your family lives. And so I have two examples in here. So here's the ne is the family. Tua is a sort of space is a locative mouth, and tree and shua wawa shua. So like wawa tree family. So that's one family. So if you meet someone, oh, who is your family? Oh, Ikashwa. Okay. So you can the family. So the all the families in this municipality, they have a place name. And for example, there is another one too, Ne Ke Chkwa. So then is Ne Ke Chkwa. So Ne family Ke head and Chkwa Hill. So I guess this family kind of lived above an area where there used to be a lot of ant hills in the area. So this is something that I found in here. This is that people take like place names, and it can be a description of the place. It can be rivers, names of animals, creeks, ceremonial places like a religion, secretion, trails, plants, water well, or church. So all of these are some of the things that people can be named after. So it really depends on the area where you have lived. And so you take on the name. So also, so people like, the way they describe or the way they name toponyms is in the, depends on the shape and depends on like sort of, the way, the form of the land. That's how the places take names. And so now we have talked about like, documenting this, all this amazing, vocabulary, and like, we learn about, the life of the people in the community. And so what is, how can we use this material? So what I've done is that I worked with the local authorities, and we have created like maps, and like, so we have discussions about the territory. And so we have like, workshops with the local authorities. And so all of them, they have opinions about, their, if they agree on certain names and boundaries. And it's a really interesting way, to engage with all the materials that you collect in, hiking. And so then you bring it to, the local people, and then they can tell you, oh, like you probably missed this one, or, that is more over here. And so then all of these, right? What we do is that how can we put this into like to understand what it means, the identity of being in that territory. So we did an exercise that I thought was really interesting, is to make your territory using clay. And so the authorities, they made they play with the clay and they created their map of the territory. And it was really interesting because the size of the map that they made, it was like a size of a table. And so then we also did the map with a group of women, and in the size of their map of the women, it was the size of a tortilla. And that was really interesting thing to see. And I noticed that men like tend to say more about like places where they need to go find their animals, and women tend to like talk more about where to go collect clay to make pottery, and also where to go collect medicinal plants. So and then we bring these materials to the local schools, and we work with children from like elementary school, middle school, high school, and also college, because they recently started a university in this municipality. And so all of these materials are not being taught in school, and like I mentioned earlier, most of the things that children learn are things that are not connected to their community. And so the idea with this project is also to bring this to new generations. And so I want to like now share with you how Chatino sounds, and so you can get a sense of this language.
Ono nga nhau stay vai nó hay qua nó chỉ có nó là nó suy thì này cái sao mà nó nhau stay nó chả kia nó suy lo kia hay này nó là nó suy cái kia lo kia hay cái sao ya này nhau stay chả kia hay ở xem nó suy nó xí mà lại quỷ nhau stay này mấy yếu nào này sẽ ăn này nó sẽ quan này sẽ phục tụi này nó là này thì ai cái lúc lo kia nó kia này lúc này xí nó có ăn lo kia này xí này chắc lâu rồi vậy anh ao tin là anh sống mà làm một số nhớ kể chắc giặc lắm.
So all of this, right? We are trying to recognize the knowledge that elders have, and also like I feel that this is really important for young people to see that not only what is in a book is important to learn about. Like I said, a lot of the times we're not paying attention to what can be taught to us, and with our grandparents or with people that know the territory, and that has hike and has travel in the territory. And I feel that this is a really good way to learn about the history of the people, about the connection that people have with their space, and also all of this is so valuable, right, for these new generations. And so now that we have the linguistic understanding of this language, so now we're doing like a lot of pedagogical materials for these for the local schools, and to teach them about plants. And so the local authorities are also working now to document the plants, to kind of making that these materials can be available to people. And what I have is that all of I've been doing a lot of hikes and over the years, and all of the material that I collect is at the local library. So anyone can go look at the pictures, can listen to the audio, so they can watch the videos. And also I stored this material in AILA. It's just the Archive of Indigenous Languages of Latin America, which is in the University of Texas. So also there is available for people if you know, if they're not in the community, let's say that they are living in the US, but they want to learn about, you know, their ancestors, they can also have access to this in Ayla. And I would like to, you know, and that collaboration is a key to success language projects, right? And for my project, I'm really interested in like working with young adults, and especially because those are the ones who are going to be teaching their, you know, their children. Those are the ones who are, if we focus on them to, you know, to continue this, so we're hoping that the language will continue being strong. But and also I feel that linguists, we have to not just, you know, look into grammar, but we really have to look at, you know, the use of the language in a broader context. And I just feel that this approach really yields to some really good results, and I feel really lucky to be able to, you know, to work with the community and the authorities, and also with young, you know, children, and also, like, you know, to me, it's a project that is very personal, because I told you at the beginning that when I was young, I was taken to the city, and a lot of this knowledge I didn't acquire because I didn't live in the community. But my mother continued speaking Chatino to me. This is why I didn't lose the language. And then now, like as an adult, I wanted to, you know, to learn all of this. And so now I have a methodology of how to study this, and then how to implement, you know, some of these projects in, you know, and the community, so we can continue, you know, valuing the knowledge of, you know, elders. And well, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really fascinating. I don't even know where to start. If any of the people in the audience have questions, I don't know if you can open your microphones, or if you can't, you can type your questions in the chat, and then I will relay them to Emiliana. I was wondering if I can start asking you one question. You are documenting really ancient knowledge because of the ritual places and so on. And it's really great how you transform this into pedagogical material to use also in schools. But I was wondering, for the survival of the language, if, say, more people move to cities, or now there's a university, you say, also in your place, where people have a higher education and a professional life and so on, is there not also a need for neologisms and for vocabulary for new things? How do you deal with that?
And that's a really interesting question, because I feel that that is there are like different ways to approach sort of, you know, some of these things. Some people in Mexico, of like the people who are like in they said like activists, right? Some people take to the task to like create new words, like for, you know, technology words, or for, you know, like it just, you know, things that are not, you know, in the sort of, you know, the vocabulary of the elders, right? So I am actually not in that sense. I feel that we should not be afraid of borrowings. I think that languages always are, you know, like they're always been in contact with other languages, and I feel that in Mexican Spanish, we have a lot of, Nahuatl words. And we don't say like, oh, you're losing your language because you have a lot of borrowings from Nahuatl language, right? And so English has like, borrowings from all, different, words from all over the, parts of the world. And so I feel that what is really important is that we want people to use their language, and it doesn't matter, they can use it with borrowings or without it. And also the language that I feel that if we kind of become like the language police, we're not really benefiting the language. So for example, I work with young people, and sometimes they switch to Spanish. I will talk Spanish. Sometimes they want to do like English. I will do English too. So but I feel that at one point what we need to direct young people is that they need to understand, or they need to accept who they are, and that this language, Chatino or another indigenous language, is at equally value and equally important, and it has the knowledge like any other language, right? So if we meet, if we can reach to that level, if we can make people to be proud of who they are, and also like find like other ways to use the language. So for example, I think it is really important to have, materials in your language. I think it's really nice to have a book that is written in your language, because that it gives the validity of, that your language can be written. Because so right now we're working with this, the racism that has been, like indigenous people have gone through by, Mexican, the state, or all these projects that are being implemented that to to kill these indigenous languages, because this is what it is, right? Like so we call it the language genocide. It's just that so the programs that are being created for that. So then we need to like now go back and say, well, okay, these languages have a structure. These languages, the phonology, the morphology, just look at how they work. And so I have experience, for example, working with the students from the university, and I give them once, like we studied like for a year the tone system, and then I gave them the system, what the rule of it, and they were like blown away. They said, what? That's the language that I speak. And I said, yeah, that's it. No, yeah, people have said that that is just random. You just speak for just whatever random comes into your head. No, that is a structure to this thing, right? So if we can actually have, the identity part together with the linguistic part, and also not isolate these languages, we need to put them in context with other languages. And to put, like, when I teach, the students in my community, I teach them about grammar and linguistics, like at the way you're supposed to learn linguistics, but also examples of other languages, Japanese, like French or English, like not to be afraid of those things. That contact in borrowings to me are like, crucial. If one person is going to use a borrowing to be able to use their language, and I say, go ahead, do it. But and I feel that creating new words, it's not as urgent as actually making people use their language. That's my take. But there are different, answers to those things. But that's how I look at it.
Right. And then you said you were hiking, and this map that you showed in the beginning, there were like, I don't know, 15 or something Eastern Chatino languages. You go to all these places, or is it just within San Juan de Quiahije?
Oh, well, when I started the language documentation project, what we did is that we traveled to all of the Chatino region to be able to see, right, or to come up with an answer. Are these varieties or these are actually languages. And so we did a survey in all of these different places. And as I'm, as I was traveling, I also observed what is the social linguistic situation of each community, right? To sort of see the level of endangerment that these languages or these communities were. Yeah.
Okay, very nice. I still don't see any questions in the chat.
So can I?
Has a question,
So thank you so much. It's really, fascinating. You're doing incredible work to empower also this culture and language that is studying both together. It's the way, they can shine in a way. It's very interesting. It's fascinating. I was wondering about a purely linguistic question. Did you studied the tonal system of Chatino, which seems incredibly complicated to me. I'm very glad that Italian is not a tonal language. Did you also know anything about the interaction between the tonal system and post-lexical intonation? Is there anything done in this, let's say, sub-topic?
Yeah, I am actually really interested about that too. It's really interesting, right? Because when we do linguistic analysis, so we look for like at the I don't know if it's the right word to say, but the ideal speaker. So we look for, always like who can have a, beautiful, language that I can, document. So then when I started working in elementary school, I started noticing that I wanted to try it out if the writing system that I was proposing for the tone representation was actually, maybe that the children would be able to understand it or not. So then I spent a lot of time in a classroom, and I realized that some of the children, they had no trouble, they got it, and that was it. But then I realized that some children just didn't. And then I thought, I wonder, like, what goes into the way that I'm approaching in terms of the symbols and also the drawings. And so then I really started to think of the people who can actually really tell us about some of these situations at the teachers, but since the teachers are not, they're very interested in, using the language in a classroom, so it is really difficult. But for someone like me coming in a sort of more short period of time, I haven't been able to do it. But it's a topic that I am super fascinated. But to respond to your question, I haven't. But the closest thing that I've gone to is that to teach it to people and it really it shows that there is some differences how people take it. And so I think it will be like a really nice project, especially to see. We don't really think about in my project, we really haven't thought about the things that we study in major languages, right? If we study English, right, to see all the things that you can learn about what is causing the difficulties of children learning to read or math or writing, or there are all kinds of things that we can do. But with endangered languages, we have a lot of languages that haven't been documented. So then we need more people, linguists, that will be interested in to show us some of these things, to be able to help children to have better access to education. Because I think what happens is that since we don't since the language that they use for instruction is Spanish, but children get into school not speaking Spanish, and then as they advance, they're barely learning Spanish, but they're already are supposed to know all the the math and all kinds of different information. So when they're done, when they're ready to go to college, they cannot compete with the same level of the urban areas, and so they end up not going to school. And so for them, they say, well, I cannot do it. So there is a test, just like in a lot of countries, to be able to have access to, college degree, and they just don't pass. And most of the people in my community don't get access to college level education because of that. And because we don't really know, right? Like dyslexia will be something really interesting in terms of, how this is related to the tone system. Yeah.
There's a question by Bernat Barreiro, who's also working on indigenous languages, but in Brazil. So he writes, I would like to thank Emiliana for her very insightful talk and ask her about how she deals with disseminating the knowledge gathered in her work and her collaborations to the broader Chatino community.
To the other communities. Yeah, so I have, this is one project, but I have many other projects. That will be for another talk. I also what I done is that I work with young people in different Chatino communities and have trained young people. And so then I am for many years we travel to all the different communities to learn ourselves the linguistic diversity of our own sort of, region. And it was really interesting because we, it was like about 15 of us, and we will go to one village for 1 week, and we will study the language, and we will talk to people in the community, and we will understand the language. We'll provide, like information to the community about what we have learned, and then we will move to another community. And so we travel, and then with that, a group of people, I have a lot of good collaboration with them. We have written a book with many of them. We also do all kinds of different collaborations. And no, I am not just working with people in my community. I work with almost like the entire, with all three languages. Yeah.
Okay, Bella, thanks you. So I think the answer was exhaustive. I don't see any more questions, and I saw people are leaving already. Okay. If there's no more questions, I would like to thank you once again for making time for us and for going a lunch break, most likely. Yes, that was really interesting. Yes, Tim. Okay, more people in the audience are thanking you. So this is a very silent applause. We will have an eye from far away on your further work. Thank you very much for sharing.
Okay, well, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.